Church buildings are a constant feature of Cumbria's landscape. Typically the oldest building within a parish, they're some of the most iconic buildings of our towns, villages and rural landscapes. These living buildings, functioning as places of worship, display an array of local and national craftsmanship, making them some of the most architecturally and culturally significant buildings, as well as telling the story of Cumbria's communities. Cumbria has a history of invasion and settlement. The Romans, Celts, Anglo-Saxons, Vikings, Normans and border reivers have left their stories in our church buildings. Characteristically small and simple, yet not without beauty and grace, they reflect the history of a landscape formed of lakes, mountains, coastline and borders. 18th century prosperity produced classical formality. Victorian growth and romanticism contributed to the county known as the land of the lakes and fells. The stories of those who lived, worked and worshipped here can be read in the stones of our churches. It's no secret that the care, conservation, maintenance and repair of church buildings is considerable. And these specially commissioned videos have been produced in order to better understand these buildings, improve their maintenance, and develop a long-term strategy for their sustainability. By encouraging and improving their management and exploring their potential wider uses as heritage and community assets. The Caring for Cumbria's Churches project, run by the Churches Trust for Cumbria and supported through the National Lottery Heritage Fund, have produced this series of videos to improve the sustainability and resilience of these unique buildings.
Churches Trust is an independent trust which was set up to support and try and keep alive the church buildings of Cumbria by encouraging good maintenance, and also churches and church congregations to look at diversification, tourism, increasing their welcome and building the links to their local community. Most church buildings in Cumbria are much older. They'll be built of stone. A lot of them will have very antiquated heating systems, if they have heating systems at all. And we have, as we all know, it's a wonderful place to live, but our climate does offer its challenges with high rainfall and things like that. And the maintenance, therefore, of churches is something that is always going to be something that has to be addressed. We are, as we all know, in Cumbria a very big tourist area, and another of the initiatives that the Trust is very keen on is for churches to be outward-looking in the sense of encouraging tourists and visitors. A lot of our better-known churches are quite tuned into this, but actually there are a lot of people who, for one reason or another, would like to visit a church. They might be interested in its historic and architectural interest. A lot of people want somewhere quiet just to go in, have a few minutes, perhaps to pray or just to sit quietly. And we do encourage churches to try and open and not to think of their building as a building that's only open for 1 hour a week on a Sunday morning, but will be open for visitors and passers-by to come in. And we find that does help a church. Obviously, people sometimes they come will make a small contribution, but it also contributes to the feeling of lived-inness and life to a church.
As an ecumenical county, Cumbria's churches and chapels play an important role in mission and our communities working together with a single vision.
Well, we have 350 Anglican churches in Cumbria, and another 250 from other denominations, so 600 churches altogether in the county. And so it is a huge, huge challenge, because often the burden of it falls onto fairly small congregations. But you need to maintain the fabric, and that means the roof and the walls and everything that's inside the building. And you have to keep it tidy and clean and well decorated and often reordered, because nowadays most churches also need a loo and they need a kitchen. Very often to local congregations they can seem like a bit of a problem, and they can be a problem, but they're a huge blessing as well. So they're a great mixture really. They're a cause of a lot of anxiety and worry as people try to preserve them and keep them going. But at the same time, they're a source of huge blessing to many, many people, not least all the visitors to Cumbria, all the millions and millions of visitors, and to many people, local people in our communities. Even if they don't come to church, very often they feel a part of the church and they feel that the church belongs to them, and we have a great responsibility for looking after them and caring for them and keeping them going to the next generation.
And the way we look after our churches can have a big impact on those who use them.
I think the state of a church, for want of a better description, can have a huge impact, a bigger impact as many other facets of church life on what churches can be and what they can do. So this church that we're in at the moment, it's been recently, or not that recently, about 10 years ago, was reordered, which has enabled far more flexible styles of worship. So the chairs could be moved around. So I know when there's weddings in here, they rearrange the chairs depending on how traditional a service the couple would like. So that can make a huge difference, different opportunity for different types of worship. Churches which have got, in terms of bathrooms, good disabled access facilities, facilities where people can change their babies. It just helps to add to that welcome. That I think it demonstrates to people, whether they're part of the congregation or part of the wider community, that the church has thought about their needs. Good facilities, comfortable facilities that are accessible, I think can really help show a community that churches care for them.
Whilst the end results can make a difference, the journey to get there is not always straightforward.
I would say, first of all, you have to have that vision. It's no use starting a project if you don't have some vision and some strategy to achieve that vision. Always be thinking outside the box, think differently, and then be given the confidence to know that you can do it and people are around to help you do it. And then, as I say, go for it. There's tons of resources around to help you raise money. We can help you to get grants, so don't be worried about it. It will take some time, but we're there to be supportive and helpful, and the end result will be not just a much better building, but one that will be used by the community and will grow and develop and be a more useful space for everyone who lives around. It's a fantastic feeling, and very often as the chair of district I'm asked to the opening, and very often to preach at it, and just see people's faces and see the buzz and the happiness and the joy of what has happened when something was really on its last legs, being totally transformed. And lots of those have happened in my time in Cumbria, and we have a lot more planned as well to happen in the next few years. So it's really great.
Creative ways of funding maintenance can also leave a positive impact on the local community.
We approached the vicar of St John's to see whether, there was any land that we could build a few houses on. And he said, come in. He had an idea. The sale of the land actually goes to the maintenance of the graveyard. So this is now future-proof the rest of the graveyard, if you like.
It's not just maintenance, but future-proofing our buildings so they're sustainable and useful to the communities that use them that's also important.
I think a critical thing within many churches is that a lot of the people who are doing the graft of that maintenance and looking after and tending are, for the most part, an ageing group of people. That in itself presents us with a challenge, because it means that as the church we need to think, well, how can we reconnect with a younger generation? That's why I think rather than trying to preserve our buildings as museums, even though they do have a history which we wouldn't underestimate or value, but it's actually how we can see those as spaces where people can encounter God in a personal and in a meaningful way.
It's really exciting to see what can be done and what has been done, often against all the odds. Our churches are really valuable, and where they've been restored and where they've been developed, where they've become friendly, warm, hopefully, and sort of accommodating, where the space inside them can be used flexibly, my heart rejoices, and I think how wonderful. This is something that we're doing for God as well as for the community.
We have a tremendous legacy of churches. Obviously there's very famous churches like Lanercost Priory and Cartmel Priory, but there's a lot of very attractive country churches and a lot of churches within our towns as well, which we would like to see as well maintained as possible and helping to secure their futures by having links with their community, and that these films, we're sure, will make a positive impact towards that. And we hope that people, when they've seen them, will get back to us, spread the message of what the Trust is doing, and that the legacy will be healthier, better, brighter, well-maintained churches for Cumbria going forward.
If you would like to access these specially commissioned videos or get more information on maintenance and care for church buildings, please visit our website at www.ctfc.org.uk.